You know, the first element of this we look at is compliance. We look at the compliance aspect of it. The second aspect we look at is in terms of engineering out risk. And as far as possible, wherever we've got issues around dust or whatever it might be, safety for that matter, one of the first elements of this that we do is we actually look at the engineering out risk component. How can we automatically take the human element out of processes like this? Okay, then thirdly, we look at the well-being of employees. That obviously entails TB, the housing, those elements of our strategy. We then look at the stakeholders. We must have good relationships with our stakeholders, organized labor, you know, the DMR, the regulator, and so on. So these are all important elements and are interwoven in the strategy as such. And then finally, we look at the culture. You know, this must culminate in a culture of typically caring for our employees, caring for each other, and that way we tie up our whole strategy.
The mines, right, have been a rich and powerful organization for 100 years, at least 100 years. They rightly claim to be the foundation of South Africa's economy. And yet, right, they haven't controlled the dust.
The dust mitigating measures are obviously compulsory. Underground, there's certain rules. You know, there's rules around ensuring that we allay dust sufficiently. We allay dust mechanically through the tunnels, and in the working places where we have stopes themselves, we have a rigorous program of watering down. Now, that process of watering down is a compliance issue. It's an issue where when you enter workplaces, you must ensure that places are adequately watered down. That allays dust. I think over time we've seen an increased awareness around dust. You know, we've had very active programs around dust, you know, exposing, in other words, educating employees to silicosis, the effects thereof. And, you know, there's a lot of information to back up what I'm saying here.
People have a profound mistrust of the medical services on the mining industry. So they don't really believe anything the doctors tell them. So you also have to look at if the education is coming indirectly, say through an independent agency like Aurum or the trade unions, they're more likely to trust it than if it comes through the mine medical services.
There's an element of personal discipline, and there's also an element of company responsibility. Company responsibility in terms of allaying dust, measuring dust levels at regular spots all the time. We have what we call gravimetric sampling processes, where we actually take samples of our working places underground regularly, and we'd pick up an element of dust somewhere. There's an immediate sort of a red alert, as it were.
The fact that dust levels haven't changed, as far as we know, for 50 or since the Second World War. There's no published literature to show that dust levels have changed, and so we have to rely on the assertions of the mining industry and our own findings. And we suggest that there isn't a substantial change in dust levels.